Yeah, it's going down, man. It's Donnie Houston podcast. I am Donnie Houston. Check it out. We got a special guest today, man. Usually we have, hip hop artists, music, people like that coming in, man. But today we got a real special guest, man. He's a community leader, more than an activist, man. You see him around H-Town doing his thing. And Deric Muhammad, how you doing, bro?
Peace, bro. Happy to be here, bro. Thanks for having me.
Man, it's an honor, man. How's everything going?
Thing going good, bro. We've got the COVID-19 pandemic. We've got racism being exposed like never before across the United States of America. So we're in a time of great adversity, but I believe that in all adversity there is opportunity. I'm doing good, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So what you been up to, man? With everything going on, with the COVID,
Bro, fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
First of all, COVID-19 hit us all upside the head. None of us saw it coming. And even those of us who may have seen it coming, we didn't know that it would impact our lives to this extent. And we definitely did not know that we would be in September 2020 and still be dealing with the effects of COVID-19. So what I'm encouraging everybody to do, including myself, is not to change what it is that you do. We just have to make adjustments to how it is that we do it. Like me, for instance, I have a love-hate relationship with social media and the digital world. But the COVID-19 pandemic is pushing me to have to embrace it instead of fighting against it. So just like anything else, brother, there's good and bad in it. There's negative and there's positive. But I'm doing well. Now, as far as the police brutality, and every time you turn on the television, you see a different police shooting.
And that's why I wanted to have you here to ask you, man. Like, how are we really supposed to protect ourselves against this, man? Like, really, you know what I mean?
The best way to protect yourself is, first of all, to be informed. Be aware. Like, your greatest weapon is this right here. And I teach the youngsters that I teach. I have a Saturday school that I teach teenage black boys. The goal and the objective is always outsmart the officer, to always outsmart the officer from here. But if you get in a position where you have to protect yourself physically, then you must be prepared to do that as well. So security is prevention, and you have to outthink these situations before they happen. But sometimes you find yourself in a situation where there's nothing you can do. You just have to go for what you know. So, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I know you like you said, been fighting a good fight. You've been doing it for a while, man. But like, let's kind of talk about. I mean, you're actually from Houston, from the north side, right?
Right. Yes, sir. 5th Ward, Homestead. So, born and raised in the city of Houston. Grew up in the hood, just like most of us.
This was like in the 70s, 80s. Where you coming up?
I was born in the 70s, but I grew up in the 80s, the dope dealer era, which really impacted the culture. Like the way we rolled, the way we lived our life, our swag was pretty much drug dealer culture. We all had the pagers, we wore Adidas. We wanted to be like the drug dealers back then, the same way most youngsters want to be like the rappers nowadays. See, in the 70s, everybody wanted to be like pimps. In the 80s, everybody wanted to be like drug dealers. And then the 90s and the 2000s, everybody wanted to be like rappers. Well, before that, back in the 60s, people wanted to be like the intellectual. They wanted to be like the freedom fighter. Like they wanted to be like the brothers in the Black Panther Party, and Malcolm X and things of that nature. So we're trying to swing the culture back around the corner where high intelligence is what drives the culture. People want to be smart. And it's not necessarily about looking cool per se, but having this right here, like that's what we got to make cool, if you will. But yeah, I was raised in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, were you only child or what?
Nah, I had 4 siblings. I got 3 brothers, and I have a sister. Dad died when I was 11 years old. My mother, she had a really bad drug problem for the better part of my childhood, but she overcame that. So I was pretty much mostly raised by my grandmother, and barely graduated high school. You know, I was in line to either go to prison or end up in jail.
So you were into the streets and everything and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was into the streets. I never dealt drugs. I tried, but I was no good at it. And that was because drugs was pretty much what tore my family apart. So even as a 14, 15-year-old, I had a conscience. You know, I didn't like to see people get picked on. And even though I was a smaller guy, I didn't mind, you know, swinging on the big guy, fighting the bully, especially if the bully was messing with somebody that wasn't bothering them. So I always had it in me to want to defend the defenseless and be a voice for the voiceless. I didn't know what activism was. I never even heard that term before. But I always knew that someday I was going to do something significant for my people. And I've known that since I was a little child. So what you see me doing today is truly what I believe I was born to do. Fight for my people.
So because when do you what causes you to go in the direction that you're in now? If you were going, like say you were going down either, you know, this way or that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, it was always in me. And, you know, a lot of my friends started dying. A lot of my friends started getting a lot of years in jail. Some of them are just coming home.
And this is what age are you around this time?
16.
Oh, they're still young.
17. But I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to go. I just wasn't sure. So when I graduated high school, my brother had gone into the military. So in the quest just to get off the Houston streets, that's what I did. I went into the Marine Corps. You know, so I did 3.5 years there. And I think my greatest learning experience about racism and white supremacy and, you know, how the black man has been a target in this country from day one, some of my greatest lessons I learned in the white military. So when I got out of there, you know, I just at some point went on this quest for knowledge. I started reading a lot of books about black history, you know, a lot of books about Egyptology. And I picked up this book called Message to the Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that is the book that ultimately changed my entire life. It changed the way that I thought.
How did you even get onto that?
I was in California, and mind you, I never read a book in my life, ever. I knew how to read, and I was a good writer, but I never read a book in my life.
Not even in school or nothing like that, like.
I mean, you know, if the teacher give you a book and say, hey, read this chapter, I might read half of it. But as far as me picking up a book and reading a book cover to cover on my own, never, not one time. But I saw this brother reading the autobiography of Malcolm X.
By
And I
Alex
said,
Haley.
bro, what you reading? First of all, it was strange to me that a young black male was sitting down reading when he could be drinking, you know, chasing girls or something like, well, what you reading? And he said, oh, this is the autobiography of Malcolm X. And you know what I asked him, Donnie? I say, who is Malcolm X?
Whoa.
Yeah, bro. I was 18 years old at that time. I had never even heard of Malcolm X.
Wait, what? Well, I know, because I know at that time y'all not learning about that in school. That's not in school yet.
No.
Because was Martin Luther King and all that in school?
Yeah, you learned about Martin Luther King. We learned about Frederick Douglass. We learned about, you know, Sojourner Truth, Barbara Jordan. See, they taught us about the safe black people.
The people they wanted to, yeah.
The black people whose faces that they already had put on United States postal stamps, right? But nobody taught me about Malcolm. And so when I asked him, who is Malcolm X? He looked at me the same way you just looked at me, like, what? You ain't never heard of Malcolm X? I'm like, nah. So that made me feel unintelligent. That made me feel dumb as a bag of rocks. So I went and got the book. And I said, you know what? I'll read a little bit of this. Man, I ended up reading that book from cover to cover twice. And it was that book that gave me my passion and my appetite for reading, like wanting to know. After that, I picked up the ISIS papers by Francis Cress Welsing, books by Shahrazad Ali, The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. I was reading a little bit of everything. And then it got to a point to where I preferred to read over going to the club. That was big for me because I started clubbing when I was 14, 15.
Where you going like 14, 15?
Where was I? What clubs I was going to? Yeah. But they had a club called Gucci's back then. They had a club called I can't. It was right there on Parker in 45.
Rhinestone.
I think it was a Rhinestone Wrangler. But I hung with guys who were 18, 19 years old, so they get me in. But I was going to grown folks clubs at 15, 16. So the point I'm making is I started engaging in the nightlife early. By the time I was 20, 21, I realized that I hadn't gotten anything out of it. You know, I started adding up all the money that I paid at the door. I started adding up all of the dollars that I spent at the bar. I started adding up all of the jewelry that I lost fighting in the club. It was just no use. So my homeboys, my friends were like, man, what's wrong with you? Now think about this. I don't want to smoke blunts no more. What's wrong with you? I don't want to drink anymore. What's wrong with you? So they thought I was, you know what they thought, bro? They thought I had got a hold of some bad weed. And
They thought you was tripping?
I'm gonna tell you why. They just didn't understand. When I joined the Nation of Islam, I went from smoking in the garage with them to them driving down the street, and now they're seeing me about 15 pounds lighter because I started eating one meal a day and I started fasting. So I dropped weight. I got on a suit. They've never seen me in a suit before. And I'm in the hot sun selling newspapers.
Like, man, bro, out of his mind.
It's 100 degrees. So I changed so fast that they thought, oh man, Deric must have got a hold of some of that wet or something. Like they thought, that's what they thought. And of course, eventually they realized what I was into and the fact that I was serious. And my friends obviously applaud what I'm doing now, but back then they just didn't understand. It was a learning experience for them, but I was going through a transformation in my life.
How old were you when you joined the Nation?
21.
21.
I was young. All of this happened while I was very young. And yeah, bro.
So you join the Nation and you get to work. Like, what's some of the first things you start to doing, you know?
When I joined the Nation, there are several things that I had to struggle with, you know. Obviously, I got several women. I'm just
you still got the women now.
I got several women. And so now I'm in what they call the processing class. That's when you come in, they teaching you, this is how you be, this is how you conduct yourself as a Muslim. They're teaching you manhood training, you know. And so they're telling me now, you know, you can't have multiple women, brother. You have to settle down to a good choice and all of this. And you like, okay, so now I got to break my woman habit. Okay, cool. Now you tell me, I'd already stopped smoking. I already stopped drinking. But now I'm going to tell you something that happened to me. So one day we're standing on the corner selling newspapers, me and the brothers. And a white boy passes by in a pickup truck. And he goes, niggers. And I'm like, I looked at the other brother who was with me. I'm new now. I say, did you hear that? And he said, yeah, I heard him. He said he wasn't talking to us. I said, oh, yeah, he was. I said, let him come back this way. I got something for him, though. He said, what you got for him, brother? I said, I got something under the seat. I'm the new brother now, Donnie, right? Let him come back this way. You know, I still got that street in me. So he went over there and talked to some of the other brothers, and then they came and talked to me. And they say, Brother Deric, let me talk to you, brother. They're like, brother, you have a gun in your car? I say, yeah. I'm like, you don't?
We don't roll like that.
Brother, no, sir. We don't carry weapons. We out here doing a life-saving work in our community. God is our protector. We don't need. I was like, what? Then he said, because the brothers had rode to the block with me. They called another brother to come pick them up because they didn't want to ride with me. Because if you get pulled over, you know. Anyway, so I say all that to say, man, that was I was at a crossroads then. That was my last test to put down my pistol. That was my last test. But you know what? I put it down.
How long were you into the nation when this happened?
Probably about 2 weeks. I was new. I was still learning. But so yeah. So that's what it was like. It was a difficult transition because I grew up in the church. Now I'm embracing these new beliefs, and my family again thinking I'm going crazy. Something wrong with him, you know. But as time went on, my family became supportive. You know, even my own mother, she was like, I don't know what they doing to my son down there at that mosque, but he's just not the same. But my mother is a Muslim now. So I just say to anyone who's going through a transition in life and you believe in what it is that you're doing, just keep doing it. And even if your family disagrees with you and they don't understand the vision, that's okay. The reason it's your vision is because it's yours. You see, everybody else is not even supposed to understand. But if you keep rolling with it and keep doing what it is that's in your heart, eventually it'll all work out. They'll come around.
Man, so okay, how long was it when you until your mom converted over into Muslim, into the Nation of Islam?
It was like 20 years.
Oh shit!
And she converted on her own. I never tried to recruit her or anything.
One day you just showed up to the crib and she was.
Well, over the years, she would come to my speaking engagements. She would go different places, with me and whatnot. And she went through this ordeal with her health where she had to have a triple bypass. And you had just as many Muslims that come to visit her in the hospital as Christians, even though she was a Christian. And everybody would just, we'd all hold hands around the bed and pray for her. And I remember her telling me that around that time, God showed her that it's not really about religion per se. It's more or less about faith. And I think it's around then that she started kind of, making a turn. But she did it on her own. It was her decision. And she's a beautiful Muslim woman right now. But she started off being in opposition to it.
What about your siblings? Yeah,
my younger brother, he became a Muslim as well. His name is Brother Abdul Qiyam Muhammad, formerly Brother Jesse Muhammad. And he's over Minister Farrakhan's social media. So all of the social media accounts of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he's the chief. Like, he runs those accounts. And is doing very well with that. Very proud of him. So my transformation.
I follow. Yeah.
But yeah. That's my younger brother. So, my transformation has impacted my entire family. And I'm grateful for that. I don't have any regrets at all, my brother.
Yeah. Man, talk about the Black Male Summit, man.
Yeah. I mean, growing up without a father, growing up in need of a mentor, I just think about a lot of the things that I needed when I was 14, 15, 16 years old. I think about the things that I did just to try to get attention. I think about how vulnerable I was and how I could be pulled in either direction. I think about all the times that I was this close to getting shot or killed, right? Or this close to going to jail for something that I did. And so I'm sitting up here telling you my story and how I made it. And I feel like the further you go up any ladder, it's your responsibility to reach back down and get the next person that's on the way up the ladder, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in, the music business or whatever. But I'm talking about my life transformation. So me, quote unquote, making it out of the hood, as they call it, I can't look back at those who are going through the same thing that I went through when I was 14 or 15 years old and turn my back. I had to do something. I had to create a lane for them to see the God within themselves. So when I started doing the work of a minister in the ministry of justice, meaning, let's just say a friend of yours goes to jail and his mother picks up the phone and she calls Brother Deric Muhammad. Brother Deric, I think my son is innocent. He got stopped by the police. I think they planted some dope on him. Can you come to court with us? Well, sure, so I'll come support the brother in court. But after you do that so many times, a light goes off in your head. And you're like, you know what? If I could get a hold of this young brother before he gets himself put in this situation, then I never have to go to court to support him on the back end. Let me just teach him and train him on the front end. So I started doing less reactive work as an activist, and I started to do more proactive work as an activist. And so that's what the Black Male Summit is all about. The Black Male Summit is about us creating programs that are specifically designed to give black males what they need before they need it. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just my passion. My passion is to give back in a way that empowers black boys, because we losing way too many of them to the criminal justice system. We losing way too many of them to the streets. And the funeral parlors are getting rich. The t-shirt shops that print up the RIP t-shirt,
yeah,
man, they getting rich. They getting rich. And then when you look at some of the murders that take place in our community and you start doing research to try to understand why, like, somebody explain to me why this happened. 99% of the time we're killing one another over nothing. Nothing at all. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of it. But my way of doing something about it is reaching out to the youngsters before they put themselves in a situation where they got to go and do some time. The best time to catch a killer is before he kills. The best time to catch a thief is before he steals. So the sooner we can get a hold to him, like we get a hold to him as young as we can.
That's what I was gonna say. How young do you usually have them coming into the this black?
You know what, bro? Like, mothers call me and they say, Mr. Muhammad, what is the age requirement for the Black Male Summit? Like, how old do they have to be? Well, our target audience is age 12 to 18. But if he old enough to understand, bring him. Because you got some 7-year-olds out there that are so bright and so brilliant. I say bring them. And some of them are intelligent enough even at that age to get an understanding of what we're talking about. But sometimes it's not even about them understanding everything that we're saying. You could have a 5-year-old son. If you bring him under the roof and he got all of these positive black male role models under one roof, it's just something about the environment itself that empowers him. And he may not know what you're talking about. All he knows is this feels different. Because think about it. Less than 1% of the teachers in America are black male. So if our boys are spending time in public school They've got white female role models. They've got white male role models. They've got black female role models. They got male and female Hispanic role models. But they don't have no black role models, even in the school system. So,
and that's where a child spends most of their time, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Most of them spend more time with their teachers than they do their parents. And so that's what we have to reintroduce into our community. That strong black male role model. So that when these young boys are looking for something or somebody to emulate, they can point and say, yeah, I want to be like him. Not, Tekashi 6ix9ine. No disrespect to Tekashi 6ix9ine or whoever else that these youngsters are out here trying to be like. There should be somebody either in the house or right next door that excites his attention that he should want to be like. And I encourage all brothers in every community, we have to reinstitutionalize the African proverb of each one teach one. Donnie, you're a producer, you're a journalist. I don't know what else you do, but you're a jack of many trades. You should be mentoring at least one young brother or sister, but I prefer brothers focus on the brothers in the studio. You find a young brother who's interested in producing. Let's say he could be 12 or 13 years old. If you bring him to the studio with you once a week, if his parents will permit that, or twice a month or something like, man, I guarantee you he'll stay out of trouble. Why? Because you putting him in an environment where he's seeing somebody successful at doing what he likes to do. It'll change his life, bro. It'll change his life. And sometimes we make the mistake of thinking that if you don't have a platform where you reaching tens of thousands of people, you can't make a difference. Or if you don't have a big voice in the community, you can't make a difference. Or if you're not a politician, you don't have a position, you're not a ball player, you're not an athlete, you don't have the popularity. Nah. The most impactful impact you can make on a human being is one-on-one. So just teach one. And who knows, the one that you teach might be the one that goes out and changes the world, finds a cure for cancer, reaches millions. But everybody got to do something. And that's what we're encouraging in our community.
Yeah. Man. So we got before we get out of here, we got the election coming up.
Yes, sir.
And we got Trump, we got Biden. Where do you stand on all this going on right now? And it's becoming like a divide. Did you see the video with Ice Cube where he was saying, how before we just accept Biden, who most blacks are kind of riding with for the Democratic side of things, that we need these kind of demands met, and we need to know, what's going on with this and all that type of thing. Like, where do you kind of stand on this whole?
I agree with Ice Cube, Brother Donnie. We need a black agenda. The black community, we've been prostitutes for the Democratic Party for far too long. For Joe Biden to come out and say something like, if you're not voting for me, then you ain't black.
That was a problem, that he felt that comfortable. Yeah. To say that. Yeah, that was a problem.
He knows that black people are so afraid of a second Trump presidency, he feels like he has no choice. Okay? So if somebody is the only game in town, let's just say I was a drug addict and I'm not, right? And I go to a small town. Let's say my drug of choice is meth. Okay? Well, if there's only one meth dealer in town, I gotta go to him. He ain't gotta be nice to me. He can overcharge me. What I'm saying is we can't be like dope fiends, political dope fiends, in that we feel that if we don't vote for the Democratic Party, we don't have any other choice. Now, I'm not saying that you should go and vote for Donald Trump. I'm not voting for Donald Trump. But the least you can do is make the person that you plan to vote for sit down and outline what it is that he plans to do for your community. So the tragedy is not that black people are going to go out and just vote against Trump. The tragedy is not that black people are going to go out and vote for Biden because they feel that they have no choice. The tragedy is that we still believe that our future hangs on who sits in the White House. When you could go back for the past 10, 12 presidents, our community has always looked the same. So what I'm saying to the black community is this, bro. If 8 years of a black president did not change our condition, what in the hell do you think that 8 years of a black vice president is gonna do for us? So we chasing after the wrong thing. Our problem is not political. Our problem is spiritual, and our problem is economic. When we come together in unity, there's nothing that anybody in the White House, in the State House, in City Hall, there's nothing that anybody can do to stop us. Our destiny is in our own hands. It's not in Donald Trump's hands, and it's damn sure not in Joe Biden's hands. So I'm not telling people who to vote for. You know? I understand if you don't want Trump in office. That makes sense. Who would? The guy is a straight up white nationalist. He's what you call an overt racist, which means he lets you know where he's tripping.
Yeah.
But Joe Biden, when you really go back and look at his history, Joe Biden was a strong author of the crime bill that kicked off mass incarceration. It's brothers that's just not coming home because of the bill that he helped to author back in the 90s. So he has not been our friend either. You're not gonna ever have no friend in the White House. All we got is us. Ain't nobody coming to save us but us. So no matter what happens in November, we have to be determined that we're gonna do for us and look out for us. Listen, Chinese people are looking out for Chinese people, and ain't nobody saying nothing about it. When you go to Chinatown, how many black businesses do you see set up in Chinatown? Not one.
That's a fact.
Go open up a wig shop in Chinatown. See how long you last.
Yeah.
They're territorial. I ain't mad at them. Jewish people, they support Jewish people. You know, white folk gonna support white folk. They've been doing that since they've been on the planet 6,000 years. Our Mexican brothers and sisters. You can go to a Mexican restaurant. I've been to Mexican restaurants and nobody even spoke English. That's them letting you know. They're so confident that their own people gonna come support them that they don't. If you
want to mess with it, cool. If not,
exactly. But we're gonna be open because our own people gonna come and support us. See, that's the mentality that black people have to take. We have to be unapologetically supportive of one another, and the more we do that, the less it matters who sits in the White House. Because even if the people in the White House are black, it's still a white house.
There it is, man. Deric Muhammad. Thank you, man, for coming through. This has been great, man.
Appreciate you having me, bro.
This has been great. I always pick up on something anytime I hear you speak, anytime I see you post something on Instagram. It's always something to take away from it, man. So,
well, man, the community is proud of the success of your podcast and your career. So we just want to encourage you to keep moving and keep setting the example, keep setting the bar high for our young people, and we be here, bro. We here to support you.
That's what it is. I appreciate that, man. Well, hey, man, I'm Donnie Houston, brother Deric Muhammad. It's Donnie Houston Podcast, man. We out.
Peace and blessings.
Donnie Houston.